This story is a bit different from the usual tales you hear. I get it, there's no shortage of stories about betrayal, people getting blindsided by someone they trusted. But my situation, it's not exactly one of those. See, I wasn't just the guy who got wronged, I did my share of messing things up too. But before you start labeling me as just another jerk, know this: I didn't end up in that position all on my own. I was pushed, pulled, and practically shoved into it. It wasn't entirely my doing, but let's rewind a bit, okay? A little context might help before I dive into the chaos. So, where to start? I'm just an ordinary guy, no genius, no movie hero, just a regular dude working a typical job, trying to keep life balanced. I've never been one to chase drama, I'm predictable, steady, that's just me. My name's not important, but my wife's is Lisa. Now, Lisa, she was something else. She was the kind of woman who turned heads the moment she walked into a room. It wasn't just about looks. Although she was beautiful, it was how she carried herself. Confident, sharp-witted, and quick on her feet in conversation, she had this magnetic energy. Even when we first met, I was in awe of how everything seemed effortless for her. People liked being around Lisa, and why wouldn't they? She was funny, charming, and her laugh was contagious. It could brighten even the darkest day. Lisa's humor was something else too. She could cut you down with a single line, but somehow you'd still be laughing. Everyone loved her for it, her friends, our family, even my buddies. I did too at first. But as time went on, that same humor started to wear on me. It's hard to keep laughing when you're the butt of every joke. She was the funny one in our relationship, while I was the serious one, the guy who kept things grounded and running smoothly. And for a while, that dynamic worked. She brought the spark, and I made sure we didn't burn down. But that humor, it came back to haunt me in the cruelest way. A joke so twisted and harsh that if I hadn't lived it, I wouldn't have believed it, and neither will you until you hear what happened. It was just a regular evening, nothing out of the ordinary. I came home from work, exhausted as usual. Life was a grind: work, come home, eat, sleep, and repeat. That night, though, the house smelled warm and inviting. Dinner was already on the table, something Italian. Lisa knew I loved pasta, so she'd make it when she was in a good mood. Candles were lit. Lisa had a knack for setting the mood. And there she was, smiling like everything was perfect, like nothing was wrong. We sat down to eat and chatted, just the usual stuff. I asked about her day, she asked about mine, and she laughed at something dumb I said. That laugh, God, I remember thinking everything was fine. I wasn't paying much attention to her mood, too busy eating and trying to shake off the day's stress. But as the conversation continued, the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first, her posture, the way her voice changed, just a little. She leaned back, her eyes narrowing slightly, and then she hit me with it, completely out of the blue. You know, she started casually, like she was talking about the weather. I've been feeling kind of tired of us lately. I looked up from my plate, confused, unsure if I'd heard her right. Tired, I echoed, my fork frozen mid-air. What do you mean, tired? She sighed like this was the most normal thing to say. I don't know, she shrugged. It's just that everything feels kind of stale, like we're stuck, you know. But I didn't know. I was blindsided. We weren't arguing, and we weren't in any sort of deep slump, at least. Not that I'd noticed. Sure, we had our routines, but I thought we were solid. After 7 years of marriage, I assumed we had things figured out. Clearly, I was wrong, so very wrong. Then she dropped the real bombshell on me. So, I slept with someone, she stated plainly, as if it was no big deal, like she was talking about buying new shoes or dyeing her hair. It made me feel better. But don't worry, I'm not going to do it again. I couldn't wrap my head around it. My mind just went blank. Everything inside me went silent. Her words hung there, like a twisted joke that hadn't quite landed. Did she really just say that? Did she just admit to cheating on me over dinner, like it was nothing? My mouth went dry, my fingers clenched around the fork, and I felt the metal bend under the pressure, but I didn't care. I stared at her, searching for any hint that this was a joke, just another one of her stupid pranks. But there was nothing, just cold indifference in her eyes. Then, as if she hadn't just shattered my entire world, she got up, walked over, and kissed me on the lips. It was a quick, empty kiss. Good night, she whispered softly, then turned and walked to the bedroom, leaving me sitting there, paralyzed. I couldn't move, couldn't even think straight. I glanced down, realizing I had bent the fork in half. My chest tightened, and all I could feel was rage flooding through me, consuming every part of me. But instead of confronting her, instead of demanding answers, I stayed glued to my seat, fists clenched, my mind spinning with a single thought: revenge. She really thought she could just drop that bomb, kiss me, and go to bed like nothing happened, like I wasn't going to react. Oh, I was going to react. All right, I was going to make her regret ever saying those words. But how was I supposed to know it was all just a sick joke? How could I have guessed that her twisted sense of humor would go this far? After she kissed me and walked off to the bedroom like it was no big deal, a surge of fury burned through me. I couldn't just sit there and stew in it, not with my mind spiraling the way it was. So, without thinking, I grabbed my jacket, threw it on, and stormed out of the house. I needed to get out, to breathe, to clear my head. But more than anything, I needed to talk to someone. My first instinct was to call my best friend, the guy I always turned to when things went sideways. But as I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb stopped on a different name: my wife's friend. Let's call her Megan. Megan wasn't just some random friend of Lisa's. I'd known her longer than I'd known my wife. We used to hang out in the same circles long before Lisa and I were a thing. And to be honest, there had always been a bit of something between Megan and me, nothing serious. But I knew she had liked me back then, before Lisa came into the picture. It was one of those things where the timing never seemed right, but I had a feeling her feelings hadn't completely disappeared. So, without thinking it through, I called her. She picked up after a couple of rings, sounding surprised but not in a bad way. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, her tone casual like we hadn't spoken in a long time. "Can you meet me?" I blurted out. "At the bar near your place. I just need to talk." There was a short pause, but she didn't ask any questions. "Sure, I'll be there in 10. That was it, no pressing me about why I wanted to meet or what was going on. She just agreed, almost like she sensed something was wrong. I jumped in my car and drove to the bar, my mind still racing over what had happened at home. When I arrived, I spotted her right away. She was already seated in a booth with a drink in front of her. Megan looked up as I entered, her eyebrows lifting slightly in surprise. "Where's Lisa?" she asked. I sat down, avoiding her question. "She's not coming," I said bluntly, and that caught her attention. Megan leaned in, her casual demeanor shifting to one of concern. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." We ordered drinks, and once the alcohol hit, the words just started flowing. I told her everything: what Lisa had confessed, how she had casually mentioned she'd cheated, and how she acted like it was no big deal. At first, Megan didn't believe me. I saw the disbelief in her eyes. But the more she listened, the more she realized I wasn't making it up. It was all sinking in for her. We kept drinking, the conversation getting heavier with each round. The alcohol dulled the sharp edge of my anger, but it was still there, simmering beneath the surface. By the time the bartender called last call, we were both pretty drunk. Megan suddenly leaned closer and said, "I have another bottle of wine back at my place. If you want to keep this going." I didn't even have to think. I nodded, and we left the bar together. Her apartment was just a short walk away, and we stumbled in, laughing about something I can't even remember now. But the moment we opened that bottle of wine, I knew exactly where the night was heading. There was an intense look in her eyes, and I wasn't about to stop it. I didn't want to. A few glasses in, things escalated quickly. 1 minute we were talking, and the next we were on her couch, hands everywhere, lips locked. In that moment I did something I hadn't planned at all. I pulled out my phone and started recording, not the whole thing, just bits and pieces. Megan noticed, of course, and initially pushed back. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice slurred but still sharp as she pushed my hand away. "It's just for me," I said quickly, trying to calm her. "No one else will ever see it." I promise. She hesitated, but eventually gave in. Alcohol, desire, and years of unresolved tension will do that, I guess. So, I kept the camera rolling, capturing just enough to satisfy whatever twisted part of me thought this was a good idea. When it was all over, I sat up and told her I had to leave. Megan looked at me, disappointed. "You're leaving?" she asked, a hint of hurt in her voice. "Yeah, I should," I replied, already feeling the weight of what I'd just done. It's late. She clearly wanted me to stay, but I wasn't about to spend the night. This wasn't going to become a regular thing, and I wasn't going to complicate my life any more by staying. So I left, called a taxi, and as I sat in the back seat, my head spinning from the alcohol and what had just happened, I couldn't shake the feeling of mixed satisfaction and guilt. I had done it. I'd gotten my revenge. But did it make me feel better? Not really. If anything, I just felt empty, like the night had temporarily filled a void but wasn't going to fix anything. When I finally got home, it was late. The house was dark, and Lisa was probably asleep in the bedroom, completely oblivious to everything that had just gone down. I stood in the hallway for a moment, my mind racing as I tried to process it all. Without saying a word, I made my way to the couch and crashed there for the night. The next morning, I could already feel the tension hanging in the air, that thick, suffocating silence that lets you know something's off. Yeah, that was it. I tried to shake it off as I dragged myself into the kitchen, half expecting Lisa to act like everything was perfectly normal, pretending last night never happened. But that wasn't the case. She was sitting at the table, her eyes narrowed, and her lips pressed into a thin line as she scrolled through her phone. She didn't even glance up when I walked in, just sipped her coffee, but I could tell she was angry, not furious, but that simmering kind of mad where she's just waiting to blow up. I sat across from her, trying to act like I didn't notice, but I could feel her eyes boring into me, practically drilling into the back of my head. We ate in silence for a bit before she finally spoke, her voice thick with annoyance. So she said, dragging the word out, "Where the hell were you last night? You got home so damn late, and you didn't even come to bed." I could feel her gaze locked on me, waiting for some kind of answer, but I wasn't in the mood for her interrogation. Still, I knew I had to respond, and this time I wasn't about to lie. She had started this mess, after all. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. "I was out," I said plainly, not offering anything more just yet. Needed some space to think. She narrowed her eyes, putting her phone down to give me her full attention. "Think about what? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you were up to something." I glanced at her, a slight smirk tugging at my lips. "Yeah, I was thinking about how I'm feeling a bit tired of this relationship too." That caught her off guard. She blinked, her eyebrows knitting in confusion. "Wait, what? You're tired? Since when?" I shrugged, keeping my tone casual like it wasn't a big deal, even though we both knew it was. "For a while, I guess. And last night I paused, letting the tension build. I did something about it." At first, her expression didn't change. She looked confused, almost as if she thought I was messing with her. Then she leaned back, crossing her arms with a smirk, like she thought she'd caught me in a lie. "Oh, really? You did something about it? What, did you cheat on me?" I looked her straight in the eye and nodded. "Yeah, I did." The smirk stayed, but her eyes searched mine, trying to figure out if I was serious. "Oh, come on," she said, laughing shortly. "You're joking. Is this your way of getting back at me for what I said last night?" I didn't break eye contact. "I'm not joking, Lisa. I cheated on you." Her smile wavered, but only briefly. "Sure you did. With who?" "The waitress at the bar. Some random girl from work." I took a deep breath, knowing exactly what my next words were going to do to her. No, not some random girl. It was Megan that hit her hard. Her smile vanished, replaced by a stunned look. She stared at me, mouth slightly open, like she couldn't fully process what I'd just said. "Wait, what, Megan? My Megan? Are you serious right now?" I didn't flinch. "Yeah, I slept with her last night." She blinked again, then burst into laughter, though this time it was more nervous than amused. "Oh my God, you're kidding. You have to be. Megan? That's your big lie. What kind of joke is this?" Here's the fully paraphrased version of your text, with the timecodes removed. I didn't say a word, just calmly reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the video. I hit play and held it up for her to watch. She looked at the screen, still smiling, convinced this was some kind of elaborate joke. But as the video started and Megan's face came into view, her smile began to fade. Then the sound kicked in, our voices, the unmistakable noise of what had happened, and her entire expression changed. Her face went pale, eyes widening in shock. She quickly slapped the phone out of my hand, sending it clattering across the table. "You bastard," she screamed, her voice breaking as she jumped up so quickly her chair nearly tipped over. "You idiot. You slept with Megan. Are you out of your mind?" I stood up too, my own anger flaring to meet hers. "Oh, so now I'm the bad guy. What about you? You cheated on me first. You don't get to act like the victim here." She glared at me, eyes wild, breathing heavily. "I didn't cheat on you, you moron. It was a joke." I froze, her words echoing in my head, but they didn't make sense. "A joke? What are you talking about?" She threw her hands up in frustration, pacing around the kitchen like she was about to explode. "I said it to mess with you." "I was kidding, you idiot. I didn't sleep with anyone. I was going to tell you after you calmed down. but you stormed out like a lunatic before I could explain. The room started spinning as I tried to grasp what she was saying. A joke? You were joking, yes, she screamed, tears welling in her eyes. I was joking. I never cheated on you. But you went and slept with Megan and even filmed it. How the hell am I supposed to react to that? I felt like the ground had dropped from under me. All the anger, all the justifications I'd built up inside me crumbled in an instant. I stood there, my mouth dry, heart pounding, realizing just how badly I had messed up. Lisa, I said softly, reaching out to her. I didn't know, but she cut me off, her voice breaking. I don't want to hear it. You've done enough. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she looked more devastated than I'd ever seen her. You've ruined everything. You slept with my best friend. How am I supposed to forgive that? I had no response. There was nothing I could say to make it right. I didn't know, I repeated weakly, but my words felt empty, useless. She shook her head, backing away from me. Just go. I don't want to see you right now. She turned and stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door so hard that the walls shook, followed by the sound of the lock clicking and her sobs filling the silence. I stood there in the kitchen, feeling like my world had just collapsed. I wanted to fix it, to apologize, but what could I do? I had messed up badly, and there was no undoing it now. After Lisa locked herself in the bedroom, I knew I couldn't just sit around and wait for things to resolve on their own. The guilt was eating me alive. I couldn't get the look on her face out of my mind, the shock, the pain. But at the same time, I was still furious angry that she'd even made that stupid joke that pushed me to this point. So I grabbed my jacket again and headed straight to Megan's place. I had to come clean with her. When I got there, Megan answered the door, her face lighting up when she saw me, but only for a second. I didn't waste time on small talk. I laid everything out from the moment Lisa admitted her joke to when I showed her the video. As I talked, I watched Megan's face shift from confused to angry. You're an ass, she snapped, crossing her arms, her expression hardening. You set me up. You didn't tell me this was all because of some twisted revenge plan. What are you talking about? I shot back, my frustration boiling over. You agreed to it. You knew exactly what we were doing. Yeah, I agreed because I thought it was just between us, she yelled, pacing the living room, hands gesturing wildly. I didn't know you were using me to get back at Lisa. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've lost my best friend because of you. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my anger in check. It's not just on me, Megan. You were there, you knew exactly what we were doing. You're just as much to blame, I said. She stopped, glaring at me. You're unbelievable, you know that? I've loved you since college, and this is how you repay me, by screwing up my life. Her words hit like a punch to the gut. I had no clue she still felt that way about me, not like this. For a moment, the anger between us faded, leaving a heavy silence. We both sat on her couch, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything. After a few minutes, Megan sighed and pulled out her phone. I'm going to try calling Lisa. Maybe I can explain, help her understand. Something she dialed, but it went straight to voicemail. She kept trying, again and again, but Lisa wasn't answering, and I wasn't sure she ever would. Desperation was sinking in. It felt like I was drowning, and nothing I did could pull me out. After a while, I left Megan's place and headed back home, hoping to somehow apologize to Lisa and fix this mess. But when I walked in, the first thing she said was, I've already called a lawyer. She didn't even look at me. Her voice was cold, distant. I'm filing for divorce. My stomach dropped. It felt like the ground had crumbled beneath me, and I was in a free fall with no end. Lisa, please, I began, but she cut me off, not interested in hearing anything. There's nothing left to say, she snapped, her back to me as she folded laundry like it was just another day. You made your choice, now I'm making mine. I stood there, at a loss for words, feeling completely shattered. I knew I'd lost her, and there was no coming back from this. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went back to Megan's. I knocked, and when she opened the door, I asked if I could stay with her for a while. She hesitated, her eyes scanning my face, full of doubt and frustration. I don't think that's a good idea, she said, crossing her arms. I couldn't blame her. I'd dragged her into this mess, and now she had her own issues to deal with. As I turned to leave, feeling defeated, she called me back. Wait, she said, softer this time. All right, fine, you can stay, but just for a bit. This whole thing is a lot. So I stayed with Megan. The divorce process dragged on for about a month, and during that time, everyone in our social circle knew what had happened. Lisa made sure of it. She told everyone every detail, and our friends picked sides. Some stayed neutral, but most of them sided with her. I couldn't really blame them. During that time, Megan and I started spending more time together. What began as a mistake, a decision fueled by anger and poor choices, slowly turned into something else. We tried to make sense of this new situation to date, but the more we tried, the clearer it became that something was off. There was a huge gap between us, like we were both too broken, too out of place to make it work. She still had feelings for me, but they were now stained by everything that had happened. I felt it too. We tried to pretend things were normal, but they weren't. Every time I looked at her, the guilt of what we'd done lingered. Every time she smiled, it was forced, like she was trying to convince herself this was okay, but deep down, we both knew it wasn't. I felt stuck in this limbo, trapped between the ruins of my marriage and this fragile new thing with Megan that didn't feel real. And as the days went by, it became more obvious that no matter how hard we tried to move forward, neither of us could escape the mess we had created. We were both out of place, lost, and I had no idea what to do next. Update: it's been some time since everything fell apart, and I figured I owe you all an update. After all the drama with Lisa, the divorce, and that tangled situation with Megan, I've had some time to think. I've matured a lot more than I ever thought I would. Megan and I, well, we gave it a shot for a while. We had history, sure, and for a brief moment, it seemed like we might turn something chaotic into something meaningful. But the truth is, it just didn't feel right. We grew up together in more ways than one, and for a time we were each other's support when everything else was crumbling. But do you know what really ended it? Our so-called friends. The constant judgment from everyone around us was relentless. People love to talk, point fingers, and act like they're somehow above it all. They gossiped behind our backs, made snide remarks, and treated us like the latest scandal to discuss at every opportunity. It was draining, and after a while it just became too much. One night, after yet another awkward run-in with one of her friends, Megan and I sat down and faced the truth. We knew this wasn't going to work, not with all the baggage, not with everyone's opinions hanging over us like a dark cloud. So we made the decision to end it. It wasn't some big argument or dramatic breakup. We just quietly let go for the sake of us both. Now, I'm in a different place, both literally and figuratively. I've decided to move to another city. I'm packing my things and getting ready to leave this town and all the memories behind. It's a strange feeling, but it seems like the right choice. I need to get away from the mess, from the people who refuse to let me forget what happened, and start fresh. I want a clean slate, no more judgmental stares, no more baggage from the past dragging me down. It's terrifying, I won't lie, but there's something about starting over that fills me with hope. Maybe this time I can figure out who I really am without the weight of all those mistakes and bad choices. I'm not saying it'll be easy, nothing ever is, but it's a step forward, and for the first time in a long while, I feel ready for it. Here's to new beginnings. Update: well, here I am, already settled in a new city. It's amazing how quickly things can shift when you truly decide to leave the past behind. I found a job pretty fast too. I'm working in an office now, doing something completely different from what I used to. It's nothing glamorous, just basic admin work mixed with a bit of project management on the side. It's a steady job, and honestly, after everything that's happened, the normalcy is kind of a relief. I clock in, do my work, and clock out. No drama, no stress, just the daily routine. And for now, that's enough. But of course, life always has a way of throwing something unexpected at you. There's this girl at work, let's call her Anna. She's the kind of person who lights up the room when she walks in, but not in an over-the-top way. There's just something about her, this quiet confidence that draws you in. Not to mention, she's smart as hell and doesn't take crap from anyone. Here's the fully paraphrased version of your text, with the timecodes removed. But I find myself glancing at her more than I should, and I think she's noticed, but I haven't been able to say anything. I mean, how could I? I'm still carrying all this baggage from my past, the divorce, the fallout with Megan. It's all still there, lingering in the back of my mind. I can't help but feel guilty, like I don't deserve to try again. Part of me thinks I need to make peace with everything that happened before I can even consider moving forward with someone else. So here I am, stuck in this strange limbo. I really like Anna, but I don't know how to tell her. I keep wondering, what if I screw it up again? What if I'm still too messed up to make this work? I guess that's why I'm asking all of you, what would you do if you were in my position? Would you take the leap or hold off until you're sure the past won't come back to haunt you? Anyway, I just wanted to check in and say thanks for sticking with me through all of this. Your support has meant more than I can express. I'm still figuring things out, but it's comforting to know there are people out there who have my back. Here's hoping I can turn all this into something positive. Update. I thought it was time for another update, and this one's a little different from the last. I'm now in a relationship with that girl from work, Anna. It's been going well, better than I ever expected. I took my time, though I didn't rush into anything because I wanted to make sure I was truly ready. I've been seeing a therapist for a while now, really putting in the work to sort through the mess of emotions and heartache left from everything with Lisa and Megan. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. I've realized I can't keep punishing myself for the past. Yeah, I've made some big mistakes, and it's taken a lot to accept them, but I'm finally starting to feel like I'm moving on and that I deserve another chance. Anna has been patient, understanding, and just. Good. She knows about my past, and even though I was anxious about telling her, she didn't judge me. That's something rare. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is that I never did develop much of a sense of humor. Maybe that's just not in the cards for me, but I've learned to be okay with it. We laugh about it sometimes, especially since Anna has this lightness about her that I really admire. Maybe that's enough for the both of us. Anyway, I just wanted to let you all know how things are going. I'm in a better place now, and it feels great to finally be able to say that. Thanks for sticking with me through everything. Wishing you all the best and good luck with whatever life throws your way.